The silence of a warm sunny day is broken by someone's loud, indignant cry. This is Mao Xiao, who has just been informed of the broken engagement. The unpleasant news was brought to him by Lin Bei, a handsome young man of 20. He was a good, upstanding guy from the 21st century. But before he could put his good ambitions into action, he was inexplicably transported to another world, the Juzhou continent. There, he became the senior disciple of the Qingyun school's single-minded peak, whose leader is the immortal fairy Bi Yun. In this school, where knowledge flowed freely like water from a mountain spring, he met Du Gu Yu. There he also met Nalan Qingyun's younger sister. Contrary to his wishes, the system forces this guy to become a villain. After learning this, Lin Bei decides to adjust his character to become a good person without dying in the alien world. However, to the boy's horror, the evil system did not allow him to do this. And then the hero decides to become a supervillain for the sake of his own survival. That's why he's now once again improving his villainy skills, diligently humiliating Mao Xiao. "Do you really think we came here to negotiate with you?" he says with a chuckle to the enraged guy. Ignoring Mao Xiao's condition, the villain continues to say that the guy is like a ghost, because 3 years have already passed, and he is still at the 3rd level of qi cultivation and is not making any progress at all. And the younger sister, who Mao Xiao was engaged to, has great potential to become a great empress and soar above the 9 heavens. Therefore, such a scumbag as her failed fiancé is completely unworthy of her. The game system informs Lin Bei that he has successfully played the role of the villain, so he was awarded 1,000 points. Now the guy understands that humiliating those chosen by heaven is the surest way to improve his own skills. All his life he strove to become a good person, but he did not manage to achieve this in his home world. And now he is the elder brother of Lingxi Peak in Qingyun sect. And to his great regret, here he has to be a real villain. The young hero lifted his younger sister's skirt, and the older one stole his older sister's stockings. He bullied his students, older brothers and sisters, intimidating everyone around him. He would really like to change the rules of the system, because it is obvious that he himself will become just another step for those chosen by heaven, and sooner or later, he will simply die. But there is a chance that if the hero completes the system's villainous tasks, he will be able to turn the situation around. Lin Bei, as an apology for the broken engagement, gives Mao Xiao a Jian pill that can help a cultivator condense his nascent soul. Of course, with your trash abilities, you probably won't need the pill, but the Xiao family might find it useful. He laughs at the guy. With the Jian pill, this family may have a nascent soul expert. Unable to bear such humiliation, Mao Xiao slammed his fist on the table. The boy believes that even if he is useless now, nevertheless, at the age of 16, he has already reached the stage of creating a foundation. "And what level were you at that age?" Mao shouts furiously at Lin Bei. He grins maliciously in response and turns away, reproaching the guy for his arrogance. He approaches his sister and asks her to tell him at what age she reached the same stage of foundation building. The girl obediently begins to tell that 13 years ago, the fairy Bi Yun took her as a student and made her a younger sister. Then she was only 5 years old, and her older brother was 8. 5 years later, Lin reached the foundation stage at the age of 13, and she herself, with the help of her brother, reached the same stage at 15. What he heard leaves Mao in a state of shock and disappointment. His self-confidence takes a huge hit. The guy's heart is on the verge of breaking, and his chi of luck drops by a whole 500 points. For the achieved result, the joyful Lin receives 100 points of luck and a whole 1,000 points of villainy. Encouraged by his success, he decides to add some more fuel to the fire. He cruelly tells the depressed Mao that if he were in his place, he would have long since lost the face to live in this world. As for his engagement to his younger sister, he himself is much more worthy of becoming the girl's husband, and not at all a loser like Mao Xiao. Mao watches in rage as the man he hates embraces Nalan Qingyun, and concludes that the initiator of the breakup was his fiancée, who fell in love with Lin Bei. "You two bastards, go to hell!" The guy can't take it anymore, jumping up and rushing into the attack. But Nalan Qingyun easily stops him with a humiliating kick right to his face. Mao, not expecting such resistance, falls to the floor, clutching his bruised face. "My older brother is not someone to be trifled with," says Nalan. Mao does not agree with the girl. He is disgusted by the fact that this man is hiding behind a woman's skirt. Lin, however, believes that there is no need for him to attack himself, since Nalan Qingyun is protecting him. But if he himself, instead of his younger sister, had kicked her with all his might, Mao would already be dead. These words bring the humiliated guy to the boiling point. He jumps to his feet and promises everyone in the hall that in 3 years, he will definitely come to the Qingyun sect and demand retribution from both of them. 30 years in the East, 30 years in the West. Lin rolls her eyes at this promise. While asking him not to misbehave, he nevertheless delivers a light kick to Mao's face. The guy again can't stay on his feet and humiliatingly falls to the floor. Lin gets 1,000 points of villainy and 50 points of luck for this, while Mao Xiao, on the contrary, loses 250 chi of luck. Zheng Xiao tries to intervene to protect his family's disciple, but is stopped by another elder. The white-haired Ouyang reminds the man of the consequences that would result if he were to be hostile to the Qingyun sect. Therefore, Zhang can only close his eyes, agreeing that he is right. Chosen daughter. Gu Yue approaches Mao, worried about his well-being. She showed up to help him. Their chi of luck intertwined and Mao got plus 200 points. Lin realizes that suppressing this guy's chi of luck will not be so easy now. To do this, he will have to break his connection with his chosen daughter. With a chuckle, he notes out loud that Mao is only capable of hiding behind women's backs. Mao Xiao is so shocked by these words that he can't even respond with anything other than an indignant cry. Lin continues to say that Mao recently refused to call off his engagement to Nalan Qingyun, and now he is already embracing another woman. The villain believes that Mao has no face or shame, since he is ready to welcome any woman who throws herself into his arms. What a pity it's a flower inserted into cow shit, he says, wiping away non-existent tears with a handkerchief. Gu Ye holds Mao's hand, urging him not to fall for other people's tricks. Don't think you're a genius. In my eyes, your talent is only average, the girl shouts, pointing her finger at Lin. But this backfires, and Mao Xiao, who reached the foundation stage much later than Lin, becomes even more upset. His self-esteem plummets, and his luck drops by 100 points at once. If the system hadn't told Lin that Gu Yue was the chosen daughter, he would have definitely thought that she was on his side. He folds his hands and bows slightly, acknowledging the girl's rightness and expressing the hope that she will be able to guide him. Worriedly, Gu Yue turns to Mao and asks if he is okay, to which the guy explodes and roughly pushes her away, shouting to leave him alone. Lin deftly catches the girl by the shoulders, preventing her from falling. Mao runs out of the room and she shouts after him in frustration. Breaking free from Lin's embrace, the girl quickly runs after Mao Xiao. At this point, the ugly scene ends and everyone leaves the hall. The day gave way to night, and the bright moon, rising high, filled everything around with its quiet, silvery glow. After receiving 3,000 villain points, the system finally told Mao Xiao's next chance to rise today. Lin Bei can't let this happen, so he sneaks into the Xiao family's back mountain. Mao tirelessly dives into the depths of Yin Yue Lake, trying to get one important thing from there, but all to no avail. So he contacts Deng Lao to discuss his unsuccessful search. The guy complains to him that there is nothing special at the bottom of this lake, just ordinary stones. Meanwhile, somewhere in the forest nearby, a satisfied Lin stands. He successfully snatched the lucky opportunity of the Four Directions Spirit Box from Mao, for which the system awarded him 400 luck points and 20,000 villain points. The Four Directions Spirit Box is an artifact that came from the Immortal Realm to the Nine Dynasties continent. It can extract the essence of all spiritual objects placed inside and condense them into origin stones. While examining the unusual artifact, the guy doesn't notice movement behind his back. Lin Bei, a surprised Gu Yue calls him. The guy jumps up in fright and does a somersault in the air. The girl asks again what he is doing here on the back mountain of the Xiao family, to which Lin replies with a smile that he couldn't sleep today after their morning meeting. Gu Ye's graceful figure lingered in his mind and did not give him peace, so he unconsciously ended up here. Gu Yue doesn't buy into his chatter, immediately realizing that this man is here to harm Brother Mao. So she no longer wastes time talking, but immediately tries to attack. Lin easily dodges her blow. He looks at the confused Gu Yue with a sly smile. While the girl has not yet had time to come to her senses, he reaches out and carefully grabs her wrist. In one fluid movement, Lin pulls the girl towards him. "If you ask me how deep my love for you is, the moon represents my heart," he says to her, looking into her eyes and holding the stem of a red rose between his teeth. For teasing his chosen daughter, the system generously awards him 1,000 villainy points. Suddenly, Lin hears a loud voice behind him demanding that he let the girl go. He turns around and sees the girl's guardian, named Gu Xiu, standing in front of him. Lin feels a terrifying pressure and can't even move. The man in front of him is so powerful. The system offers him help, but he will have to spend as much as 10,000 villainy points to get the method of salvation. Out of desperation, Lin agrees, and all the information about Gu Yue and the rescue plan appear before his eyes. At this time, Gu Xiu asks the girl what he should do with the person who offended her. The girl exhales heavily and makes a difficult decision. She orders Lin to be killed to prevent him from influencing her beloved brother Mao. After receiving his mistress's permission, Gushu begins to attack. Obeying his power, the fiery hand begins to strangle Lin Bei. But the guy still manages to croak out inaudibly that he has something for Lady Yue. But the girl has no intention of listening to him. Therefore, Gushu clenched his palm, increasing the strength of the strangulation. The seed of gluttony water has appeared in your body. Lin screams with all his might. The hand strangling him disappears in that same second. Lin continues to say that the seed of the water of gluttony is one of the 10 great magical waters, and right now it is in Madame Yue's dantian. If she doesn't believe it, she can ask Gushu to take a look and confirm. Yu looks at the man thoughtfully and still agrees. After receiving permission, Gushu begins his inspection. Damn it, this is truly the seed of gluttony. He opens his eyes in disbelief and wonders who has the audacity to use the mistress as a cauldron. Lin replies with a grin that he knows the identity of this man. Perched on the edge of the roof with his mistress and Lin, Gushu uses his secret technique to observe Mao, whom they suspect. The man is in the stage of transformation, so it is impossible to detect him, being only in the stage of inception. Therefore, now all the cultivators are watching with some surprise what Mao Xiao is doing. Now they know that Lin was right and that this guy is really to blame for what happened. Now, seed of the water of gluttony. They hear Mao's cries. The guy looks at the result of his efforts with a satisfied smile. Right now, he is using the demon cultivation technique, and the tabby cat lying in front of him is turning into a huge tiger, and the fiery force immediately engulfs the unfortunate animal. Gu Yue covers her face with her hands in horror. Now there is no doubt about the identity of the owner of the water of gluttony. She thinks about how for some reason it always rains at such terrible moments, adding even more sadness to the whole situation. Old man, can you untie me already? Lin turns his head to Gushu. Hearing a rude order to shut up in response, he rolls his eyes in displeasure. Another system window appears, and the guy sees that Gu Yue and Mao Xiao have temporarily separated, due to which his chi luck has increased by 20 points. And as a reward, he receives another 1,000 points of villainy. At this time, his younger sister Nalan Qingyun comes to his room. She brought her older brother a dish that she had prepared with her own hands. But to her surprise, the room turns out to be empty. The girl doesn't know that her older brother is currently in one of the many hotels in this city. He is still tied up and all he can think about is whether they will let him go today. Guye comes out of the shower. She has already managed to bathe and change clothes, and now she's worried that she feels something strange inside herself. At that moment, another window pops up in front of Lin, and it gives him the task of winning this girl over within 3 months, promising a whole 50,000 villain points as a reward. Lin's eyes widen in shock as he looks at the sign that says, "If this fails, the owner will be destroyed." Why are they suddenly going to destroy me? The guy mentally screams, going berserk. He understands that this mission is the same as sending him to certain death, but he can't do anything. The system window has already closed. With brother Mao Xiao's current strength, if he came into contact with the water of gluttony, there was a fear that it would immediately swallow him up. But that nascent soul next to him was very suspicious, in Gushu's opinion. Yu hopes that the seed of the water of gluttony was created by this soul, and senior brother Mao doesn't even know about it. Lin gets angry and decides it's time to spill the beans. He rips off the ropes and begins to loudly scold everyone. "You look good, but you don't think with your brain," he shouts at the girl. "Are you stupid or dumb? Is your head completely empty?" Lin continues. He harshly tells Gushu that the man has a weak mind despite his high level of cultivation, because he allowed someone to use the lady for his own purposes and still thinks it is reasonable. Hypothetically speaking, it makes absolutely no difference whether the water of gluttony is related to that nascent soul, because now that Mao Xiao has obtained that seed, they have all become his cauldron. And besides, why does a nascent soul need such a cauldron at all? Seeing the expression on Mrs. Yui's face, the boy exhaled and fell silent, fearing punishment. He freezes and hesitantly raises his hand, intending to say something in his defense. But suddenly, instead of anger, Yue begins to sob loudly. The girl, through tears, says that she grew up with Mao since childhood, and simply cannot believe that he is capable of such meanness, and then suddenly clutches her stomach. Gushu immediately runs up to his mistress. The girl falls to her knees and rests her hands on the cold floor, and the keeper freezes in indecision. Yue, having learned about the water seed, tried to burn it with the family mystical fire. Apparently, this caused a backlash. Lin selfishly thinks that if Yue dies, the task issued by the system will also become invalid. Plus, he's a villain, so it doesn't matter that he doesn't save someone dying right in front of him. Moreover, this girl also tried to kill him. Despite his thoughts, Lin still cannot do something so bad. Unable to bear it any longer, he asks the system to open a store and list items that conceal the seed of the water of gluttony. The system opens the villain shop and the guy sees a few suitable items, but each of them costs just under 1,000,000 villain points, while he only has 30,000. And then he notices the method of pure yin and yang, which costs exactly 30,000. During the work of this method, a man and a woman put the necessary seals into each other's bodies, which allows them to suppress foreign objects, as well as improve spiritual power and increase the likelihood of a breakthrough in cultivation. Lin is thinking that the system was specifically targeting his entire points balance. But he has no choice, and he makes the purchase. And just in time, because Gushu was already about to try to push out the water seed with his chi. But Lin grabs his wrist, not allowing him to risk his life to save the lady. He asks the old man to go outside and stay there until he saves Gu Yue in his own way. This infuriates the man, and he orders Lin to get lost unless he wants to die. His angry cries are interrupted by the mistress's bloody cough. Lin calmly replies that now they can all trust only him. Out of desperation, Gushu decides to trust this strange guy once. At the same time, he promises to find him and kill him if something happens to the lady. Having finished speaking, the old man disappears in a split second. Lin smirks that Gushu even speaks harshly and trivially. The guy decides to ask why the system doesn't stop him from saving the girl, and gets the answer that the actions to save are within the character settings. Satisfied with this answer, Lin begins to use the pure yin and yang method. It takes some time before Yue finally comes to his senses and feels an unusual coldness from using the method. Lin says with a smile that it seems that the seed of gluttony water has been suppressed. The girl finally regains consciousness and unexpectedly feels that she is completely naked to the waist. She looks down to make sure, and immediately covers her chest with her hands and blushes deeply. Her angry cries and promises of a quick death for Lin are heard throughout the area. After using the pure yin and yang method for a long time, it was morning, and Nalan was in her elder brother's room. She opened her sleepy, reddened eyes, and her gaze did not promise anything good to her brother. The girl resolutely stood up from the table where Linya had been waiting all night. She never heard from him again, which led her to conclude that someone was having so much fun that they forgot about their little sister. Unaware of the latest threat, Lin leaves the hotel at this time. His face and body are covered with growing bruises and abrasions. He promises himself in his mind that within 3 months, he will make Gu Yue kneel at his feet. A mother passing by with a child tells the baby not to look at the strange man who looks like an idiot. Having laughed vilely at this, Lin finally returns home. He feels like no one noticed that he spent the whole night at the Xiao family. Contrary to his thoughts, Sister Nalan silently appears right behind his shoulder. And again the sounds of powerful and cruel blows spread throughout the area. At this time, Gu Yue and Gu Shu were discussing that with the appearance of another person, the scope of application of the invisibility technique would expand. Behind them, Lin appears again, this time with his sister Nalan. Together they watch as a boy named Zhao Jian moves towards Mao's house. He comes inside without knocking to check on Mao and whether his wound is healing. But what he sees in the house shocks the boy. "What are you doing?" he screams in panic, to which Mao Xiao replies with a slight smile that he is recycling the corpse of a gray demon wolf to heal himself. With a scream, Zhao rushes straight at him and demands that he stop. The gray demon wolf belongs to him. The guy uses it as a medicine for his sick mother. Every day she needs medicine, and only this wolf can support her condition until the wounds of the boy himself and his sisters heal, so that they can hunt another wolf. But now Mao Xiao has ruined everything, and Zhao regrets helping that heartless bastard. Mao replies that he was grateful for saving him before, but now they want to kill him over a trifle. "So don't accuse me of being impolite," Mao says, grinning nastily. Releasing his power, he commands the flames of gluttony to devour the man. "Ungrateful trash!" Zhao shouts, only now realizing what's going on. The dying boy's screams are heard by his mother and sister, who remained waiting for him on the street. Frightened, they push the door and enter the house. To their horror, they see the already cooling body of the dead Zhao. They immediately understand who is guilty of his death. Mao tells them that he did not intend to kill Zhao, and that he himself is to blame for what happened. Seer, the deceased's sister, is eager to avenge her brother, but her mother stops her. She takes her daughter away from this terrible house because she understands perfectly well that they will not be able to defeat such a strong and cruel person. Xiao Mao, with a mocking smile, tells them after them that he is honest and fair and will not kill innocents indiscriminately. Gu Yue and the other cultivators were still watching everything that was happening. The girl, in a fit of anger, breaks a tree branch with her hands, swearing at Mao. Gushu asks her to go back to the residence and not to be seen by that person so as not to get hurt. Deciding not to look at this horror any longer, they prepare to leave, but Lin remains. The system notifies that Mao Xiao lost 3,000 luck points at once, while Lin himself gained 600 luck points and a whole 30 points of villainy, which fully compensates for the points spent on saving the girl. In the evening, Lin heads back to the sect on a flying house. He sits at the table looking thoughtfully out the window. Now Mao Xiao has no luck left to use, and that's good for Lin. But the guy is unnerved by the presence of Gu Yue, who for some reason is also heading to the sect with him. She is not a disciple of the sect, and Lin asks if she is afraid that Mao Xiao will find her, to which the girl sadly lowers her eyes to the floor. Lin realizes that she still has feelings for Mao Xiao, but with her arrival, it will be more convenient for the guy to carry out the system's task, so he decides not to waste time. Lin touches the girl's chin with his fingertips and makes her lift her head slightly to look into her tear-stained eyes. The guy quietly says that he didn't mean to bully her at all, but he has to ask if Yue is afraid that he will eat her since she is on his territory. A sly grin appears on his face as he leans even lower towards the young lady's face. The villain's points increase by another 500, and Yue screams indignantly and moves away. Lin presses even harder, gently pushing the girl and laying her completely on the bed. Gu Yue recalls out loud that Lin has already seen every part of her body and blushes again. The system notifies that the conquest progress is 35%. It was at this moment that the door opened and Nalan silently entered the room, and the dishes she had brought with her fell out of her hands. The girl freezes on the threshold, shocked by what she saw. Lan understands that he is finished. The girl, without thinking, takes the scabbard in her hands and slowly draws her sword. And again, the loud screams of the guy and the sounds of blows overtaking him begin to be heard. He is saved from the final massacre by a flame that suddenly appears outside the window. Looking outside, the cultivators realize that it is stone fire. Below them stands a stone dragon, a Foundation Peak level monster that loves to devour minerals and contains a stone fire seed that is a class lower than Mystic Fire. His talent is hard armor, which can transform ingested minerals into the surface of his skin, forming a hard shell. The stone dragon directs a stream of its flame at the tree behind which a small, frightened man is hiding. The baby had already said goodbye to life when suddenly the fire died down and the sounds of battle began to be heard. Looking out from behind the tree, he saw that the stone dragon had been defeated. Lin, who easily dealt with the dragon, is going to bring it to his master, who loves such things. The joyful baby looks at his savior with huge eyes shining with delight. Meanwhile, a scandal erupts in the flying house. Nalan yells loudly at Yue, sending her back to Mao Xiao, to which she replies that she is not going anywhere and that she likes being here. Nalan decides that this girl has her eye on her older brother, and this fact makes her incredibly angry. She was sure that her beloved elder brother would never be interested in someone like this Gu Yue. Their heated argument is interrupted by the opening door. A happy and proud Lin enters, carrying a huge carcass of a stone dragon on his shoulder, and next to him stands the rescued baby. The girls immediately put on the most innocent look possible. Lin is extremely tired, so the first thing he does is take a sip of water. He sits down on a chair and a little man carefully pours him a cup of water from a decanter. Lin automatically says thank you and takes his first sip. And then he chokes on the water and spits it out sharply right on the baby. "What is this little thing?" the boy shouts. To which the girls respond that this thing returned with him and they just wanted to ask about it. Realizing that they said this phrase at the same time, the girls immediately start snapping at each other. Lin, meanwhile, leans tiredly on the table and asks the little man where he came from, to which the baby actively gesticulates and begins to babble something. According to Lin, the creature says that it was attacked by a large and terrible stone dragon. The monster breathed hot fire on him, so the baby got scared and hid behind the nearest tree. And then Lin appeared and heroically killed the terrible dragon and saved the baby. Gu Yu looks at the unusual little man in surprise. Nalan, with no less interest, carefully touches him and asks Lin what the name of this baby is. Lin decides to find out from the system what species this little man belongs to. Checking the basic information about this creature will cost him 10,000 villainy points. Lin gets mad and swipes the window with his hand, not ready to pay so much for a piece of information. Meanwhile, Nalan is already actively playing with the little man. Lin suggests simply calling him Aya, since the baby keeps repeating that word. Deciding not to spend so many points despite her interest, Lin decides to study this little guy a little later. In the meantime, he intends to leave this creature on the flying house and continue the journey with it. Very soon they arrive at the Qingyun sect. A happy and slightly tired Lin walks ahead, carrying baby Ai on his shoulders. Nalan angrily demands that Yue go away somewhere far away and not pursue her and her brother. In response, she hears that Yue is going to pay her respects to the fairy Biyun, and the rest is not Naylan's concern. At this time, Lin notices a goose going about its business and tries to make a heart out of their shadows, to which the goose snorts and turns away, refusing. Lin grins promisingly and suddenly finds himself right behind the goose. After some time, the system notifies that the guy has successfully roasted the sect master's large goose and receives 2,000 villainy points for this. Already finishing the goose, Lin is surprised to see many people climbing the peak. After a minute of thought, the guy understands what the reason is. It's time for the annual recruitment meeting, and he wonders how many people will be his younger brothers and sisters this time. Suddenly, the system warns of the appearance of the Chosen One from heaven. An astonished Lin even suggests that it is Mao Xiao, who is planning to hide his identity and sneak into their sect as a disciple. At this time, down below, one of the students carefully examines all the girls who have arrived, noting the most beautiful ones. In his hand is a golden object of an unusual shape, allowing the guy to recognize the level of charm of each of the beauties. Today, the number of girls with charms above 70 has exceeded 50, which delights the guy. He remembers with horror his native village and the local girls and boys who fell for him. These memories make him bang his head against the wall in an attempt to get rid of them. The golden object in his hand is the Book of the Immortals, and the young man asks it a question. He wonders how high his cultivation level will rise if he manages to bewitch all the beauties of this sect present. And the book replies that in that case, he will reach the fusion stage. In the 9 continents, cultivation is divided into 8 stages, the first of which is the stage of refining qi and mastering spiritual energies. Then comes the golden core stage, and the ability to fly without outside help. Then the base stage, capable of controlling flying swords. Next comes the stage of the nascent soul. The next stage is the stage of transformation, where the nascent soul is transformed into a true spirit. This is followed by the stage of fusion, when the spirit and body merge into one whole, returning to their original state. Then comes the stage of transcendence, and after that comes the stage of Mahayana. In all 9 continents, the fusion stage is only found in the highest sects. Therefore, the stranger thinks that if he can make all the beauties of the sect his own, then he will be able to do absolutely anything he wants. Carried away by his thoughts and insidious plans, the boy sits and quietly talks to himself, causing bewilderment and contempt among the other students. Lin at this time goes down to find the very one chosen by heaven. He looks at this boy with a bit of surprise, already realizing that he is the chosen one. His name is Han Zong. He is a harem master, the owner of the valuable treasure list of beauties, a lazy person, and an adventurer. His luck is only 3,000, and Lin is extremely surprised by this choice of heaven. The system tells him that this adventurer can be dangerous, and for the safety of the sect and its girls, Lin must capture the list of beauties, and as a reward he will receive as many as 80,000 points of villainy. To the guy's surprise, the system does not impose any penalties for failing to complete this task, but he still freaks out again and dismisses the notification window, not intending to trust this stupid system. The guy is sure that she is definitely plotting something behind his back. Meanwhile, Han Zong looks around to find girls with a beauty level above 90, which the beauties list promised him. At the moment, he had only seen a maximum of 89 beauty points. The guy freezes in delight right on the stairs when he sees a girl coming down. The stranger's facial features are simply delightful. Han Zong can't find words to describe how beautiful she is. The beauty list tells him that the girl's name is Dugu Yu. Her charm level is 99 points, and she is an unrivaled beauty. The guy immediately asks the treasure what level he can reach if he conquers this beauty. The beauty list tells him that it will be a golden core. Han Zong grins dirtily as he targets Dugu Yu, but he immediately becomes furious when Lin Bei, who is still unfamiliar to him, approaches the girl. "How dare he approach my woman?" Han Zong mentally fumed. Lin asks Dugu Yu why she is here instead of the master, to which the girl explains that the master is currently in seclusion and asked her to replace him. Lin is willing to bet that their master is actually in the Garden of Eden right now, and he turns out to be absolutely right. In the Qingyun sect's Paradise Garden, Biyun sneezes loudly, immediately guessing that it was Lin Bei who was saying something behind her back again. Xiaoli immediately hands the girl a clean handkerchief. Biyun stretches out her legs, using them to form a figure out of the sand, the ever-annoying Lin Bei. After the disciple recruitment ceremony is over, she will show this scoundrel how to respect his master. A loud bell rings, attracting everyone's attention. The Qingyun sect's 404th disciple recruitment ceremony has officially begun. This time, the host was Qin Ting, and he announces the first test of this recruitment ceremony. It's called the Secret Kingdom. There are only 10 islands in this kingdom, and each one is designed for 100 participants. To pass the test, cultivators must find the yin-yang fish hidden on the islands. You need to collect a pair of fish from the mechanisms, and each pair is on 3 islands, which means that only 3 can be winners on each island. Death in the secret kingdom is just an illusion, after which the subject disappears from the island and reappears in the square, safe and sound. Through a giant screen, everyone will be able to watch the performance of each cultivator. Lin watches as all the participants walk inside. Usually the competition at the first level is very fierce. Hanzong was also already in the secret realm, standing right in front of the pair of cultivators. The guy in front of him immediately felt an incredible desire to kill him as soon as he saw Hanzong. His name is Qinglong, and he has no intention of holding back, so he is already starting to form a cloud of energy, preparing to attack. Hanzong looked at him silently with a good-natured smile. Under the power of Yunyin's beauties list, the girl who came with this guy treacherously thrusts her sword straight into his back, piercing him through and through. Qinglang looks over his shoulder, not yet fully comprehending what happened. Yunyin holds the sword tightly, now dripping with bright drops of her brother's blood. With a crazy smile on her face, the girl says that she will not allow him to harm Hanzong. The audience watches in amazement as Yunyin, as if under a spell, approaches Hanzong and kindly asks if she did everything right. The most beautiful girls, ready for anything, instantly gather around this guy. Lin thinks this guy is really dangerous. Suddenly, he finds himself wanting to kill Hanzong too. Not only he, but also Genren Zixiao, the lord of Qingshu and Zixiao peaks, felt the same way now. And all the other elders and masters now feel the same way. And the fairy Kang Lian finds this young man very attractive, and even thinks of inviting him to the peak of the heavenly azure lotus. Another peak master senses something similar, and they all begin to realize that this is all very strange and suspicious. Lin suspects that this guy just has a new ability, so he asks the system to update his panel. Indeed, Hanzong had gained a new ability, Devilish Charm, and even this guy's luck immediately increased by 100 points. An impressive group of girls had already gathered around him, admiring his talent. Hanzong thinks that he can now easily repay the loan he took from the beauty list to obtain the devilish appearance and even subjugate the entire sect at once. One of the participants crawls towards Hanzong and the girls with the last of his strength, not understanding why his beloved betrayed him so suddenly today. He grabs her leg with his bloody hand, asking her to pay attention to him. This makes the girl furious. "How dare you touch me with your filthy hands?" she screams in rage, raising her sword over his body. "I'll kill you!" she screams and lowers the sword, cutting through the body of her former lover. He disappears immediately, but on the girl's ankle, the bloody mark from his hand still stands out as a bright spot. So she says that since this leg was touched by another man, it should now be cut off too. This leg is defiled and must be destroyed. A surprised Hanzong tells the girl that she shouldn't go that far, but she is sure of the opposite, like all the other beauties. Now Lin understands why there is no penalty for failing to complete this task. If he fails, then absolutely all the girls, including those dear to him, will turn into the same crazy monsters. Meanwhile, in the Garden of Eden, the mentor continues to spend her time usefully. She enjoys building sandcastles with Xiao Li. They spent a lot of time on this, and all that was left was to put the last flag on top of one of the towers. Now, finally, they are finished and admire their own creation with admiration. But before they can really enjoy it, a figure lands right on the castle, destroying it to the ground. "Teacher, there is an emergency!" Lin Bei shouts as he approaches them. It takes him a long time to understand why the system gave him 100 points right away. Both girls look at him with hatred and contempt. The teacher, without thinking, rushes at the guy, twisting and wringing his arm. Xiaoli timidly tells her that in a little while, Lin Bei will simply die. The guy, with a pleading voice, barely audibly asks for mercy. The teacher agrees not to kill him, since Xiaoli asks her to do so. Lin Bei's soul had almost left his body, right before the teacher's eyes. But, seeing this, she deftly moves her fist and returns the soul to its place. Then, as if nothing had happened, the girl asks what happened. Lin catches his breath and replies that there was a villain with a very strange ability at the recruitment ceremony, planning to turn all the girls into his personal harem. Just hearing this, the teacher becomes furious and promises to chop the scoundrel into mincemeat and feed him to the pigs. She grabs Lin's hand and says goodbye to Xiaoli, instantly flying up. The girl waves her hand after them, inviting them to play again sometime. Meanwhile, Hanzong continues to increase his personal harem. There are more and more beautiful girls around him. Their abandoned boys, reborn in the square, cry loudly and curse everything in the world. The leader, however, rushes forward and tries his best to raise their fighting spirit. "Our goal?" he shouts loudly to the guys crowded around. "Defeat Han Zong! Destroy the pest!" The rejected youths shout in unison. Meanwhile, teacher Bi Yun landed on the square with Lin. Her appearance was announced to everyone by a huge explosion, which scattered heavy stones in all directions. She thinks it was a perfect landing. Seeing Han Zong on the huge screen, she immediately became tense. The girl feels that her subconscious has suddenly become imbued with sympathy for this vile guy. She turns to Lin, ordering him to tell her everything he could find out about this man. The guy says that this cultivator's gift is called Devil's Appearance, and it makes women gradually fall in love with him and men thirst for murder. Bai Yun understands that this is indeed a serious problem. But fortunately, this guy's cultivation level is only at the cultivation stage, so not all is lost yet. According to the ancient manuscript of the sect Records of Great Tranquility, in the ancient era there already existed a man with a devilish appearance who was in the stage of divine transformation. He turned almost all of the immortal fairies in the martial arts world into his harem, and then waged a war on the male cultivators that lasted for decades. It all ended with the fact that, with the help of the Roar of Awakening technique of the Buddhist bald monks, it was possible to free most of the women, after which all the cultivators together destroyed this man, and his ashes were scattered by these same fairies. At this time, Han Zong is delighted by the number of girls in love gathered around him. He charmed all the girls of the sect, and each of them is ready to do anything for his love. The men, on the contrary, are increasingly filled with rage and a desire to destroy the hated Han Zong. Dugu Yu also fell under the influence of this artifact, although she had not yet fallen into the abyss of madness. Bai Yun, noticing that even the peak masters had fallen under the devil's influence, was already thinking about asking those very monks for help. But such a round trip would take several days, and it is unknown whether there is anyone left who possesses the Roar of Awakening technique, created specifically to counteract the spell of the devilish appearance. Lin decides to check with the system to see if it has this technology in its villain shop. To his surprise, the system actually has the necessary equipment in the store, and it costs only 2,100 points. Without thinking, the guy pays for the purchase. He turns to his mentor and says that he has mastered the technique of the Roar of Awakening. The girl is surprised by this because even she herself does not know this technique. With an awkward laugh, the guy replies that he learned this technique completely by accident. The mentor decides that it doesn't matter at all where he learned this technique. The only problem is that Lin's power is not enough to awaken everyone, so she will help him use the Roar of Awakening. The fairy, without hesitation, takes off the golden bell to use as a megaphone. Lin Bei happily supports this idea. Finally, they take action. The guy uses the wake-up roar technique, directing the sound directly into a kind of megaphone. The sound of the roar spreads throughout the entire area, reaching the ears of every cultivator present here. This turns out to be enough for them to be able to throw off the haze of obsession and come to their senses. Deciding that this is not enough, the mentor steps forward and loudly announces to everyone that they have fallen under the influence of the devil's form. Now the men of the sect understand why the desire to kill has been building up in their hearts all this time. Now it is necessary to destroy the devilish appearance as quickly as possible so that the tragedy of ancient times is not repeated. This concerns the safety of the entire sect, so sect leader Zixiao Genren is going to immediately head to the island's secret realm and deal with this. Lin Bei stops him, offering his help in this matter. Having received consent, the guy goes to the secret kingdom. He did this because if the sect leader himself killed Han Zong, the mission to capture the beauties list would be considered a failure, so he volunteered to deal with the problem himself. Bai Yun agrees with this because only Lin possesses the Awakening Roar technique, the perfect remedy against the devilish form. The other elders agree with this argument and, to help Lin, set up containment arrays outside to prevent the criminal from escaping. Such rare opportunities to both save the face of a righteous person and carry out a villainous task come very rarely to Lin, so he is extremely pleased. He calmly heads straight towards Han Zong, who is looking around with a victorious air, looking for another beauty. "It's you, the one who had an affair with my wife," Han Zong cries out when he sees Lin. Lin scratches his head thoughtfully, trying to figure out which wife exactly, since there are clearly quite a few of them. Han Zong grins maliciously, confident that all men who approached his women must die. So he orders the girls in love to kill this guy, and they obediently go to the new enemy. Without waiting for them to approach, Lin Bei activates his skill. A powerful wave of sound knocks both girls off their feet and finally brings them to their senses. They come to their senses and try to understand where they are and what happened. In horror, they begin to realize the heinous acts they committed under Han Zong's influence. The guy who doesn't understand anything shouts at them to quickly finish off this white-skinned puppy. Lin chuckled at this statement and told Han Zong the good news that he had neutralized the influence of the devilish form. This makes Han Zong grit his teeth in a fit of impotent rage. The young men stand tensely opposite each other, preparing for battle. Lin senses that the teacher and the other elders have already evacuated all the people from the island. Now only the two of them remained in the secret kingdom. Lin Bei attacks the enemy mercilessly, easily dealing with the counterattack with just one blow. Han Zong sees that this guy is at the foundation stage, while he himself is only at the Qi cultivation stage, meaning the forces are unequal. So he uses the beauties list again to increase his power. 2,000 points are deducted from his account, and his level is raised to the peak of laying the foundation. Energy spreads in waves throughout his body, and the young man screams loudly, unable to contain his joy and delight from these streams. Lin raises his eyebrows in confusion. "Prepare to die, lover of other people's wives," Han Zong shouts at him. "Now you are definitely finished, fall under the might of my power." Han Zong strikes and Lin easily dodges it. He thought it would be more difficult to deal with this guy. But apparently Han Zong thinks that all enemies should just stand there dumbly under his attacks, not even trying to dodge. Now it was his turn to attack. Lin uses the technique of heavenly palm descending from above to make the strike even stronger and more brutal. He had to spend a whole 1,000 points of villainy on this skill. The light emanating from Lin Bei blinds Han Zong and prevents him from fighting properly. He curses foully and tries to cover his eyes with his hands, trying to protect them from the too bright light, but it's all useless. And a second later, a heavenly toad created by Lin Bei lands on the guy. The villain chuckles and points out that the bastard has zero dodge. At his command, the heavenly toad steps aside, allowing Lin to approach Han Zong's crushed body. The villain squats down and searches the pockets of the deceased, trying to find the list of beauties. And just as he succeeds, suddenly the bloody hand of Han Zong tries to grab the treasure. The villain shouts in delight that this guy survived even after turning into a bloody mess. Han Zong mutters softly that he cannot die so easily, because he is destined to become a great ruler who rules the entire world. So he donates everything he has to the beauties list and asks them to give him strength in return. An extremely surprised Lin watches as Han Zong assumes his second form. The guy's entire body is filled with purple light. His flesh gradually melts, and only bones remain, on which unnecessary clothes hang like a sack. The bare skull of the recently living Han Zong turns black, and the eyes on his face glow menacingly. A hideous-looking skeleton rises to its feet, and a bright purple-pink flame burns above its skull. The cultivators watching the action notice a golden core hovering near his chest. This means that Lin Bei is now in mortal danger. This terrifies the cultivators, and only Fairy Bai Yun seems relaxed. She is sure that this guy always has a trump card up his sleeve. But the elders still believe that it is necessary to be ready to activate the backup plan at any moment. Meanwhile, inside the island kingdom, Lin Bei and Han Zong stand tensely on the forest path facing each other. Han Zong is now at the golden core stage, so he is confident that victory will be his. Lin Bei responded with a mocking grin. This impudence makes Han Zong even more angry, and he plans to use the golden core divine technique to instantly destroy the enemy. The boy stretches out his bony hand and tries to activate the divine technique. He doesn't succeed the first time, so he tries again. But even the second time, not a single movement of qi towards Lin was observed. Lin Bei covers his mouth with his hand and giggles disgustingly. After reaching the peak of foundation laying, the process of compressing the liquid spiritual force into Dantian begins. During this compression, the owner of spiritual power leaves multi-layered imprints of his soul on the surface of the future golden core. After successfully breaking through to the gold core level, these imprints form a mysterious pattern. And it is this pattern that contains the innate ability, that very divine golden core technique. And Han Zong's core is smooth as an egg, and Lin saw it clearly from the very beginning. So he burst into loud mocking laughter. Han Zong clenched his bony fists helplessly. "Shut up," he growls, gathering his chi again and launching another attack. Lin easily dodges the angry Han Zong's fist. The skeleton is sure that now he is much stronger than this idiot who managed to encroach on his woman. This guy, in his opinion, is just a pathetic coward who only knows how to run and dodge. But Lin is not at all embarrassed by this characterization, and all he does next is run away and dodge again. The cultivators, tired of watching this long chase, are laying out the playing cards. This fight has been going on for so long that they are tired of watching this picture. Therefore, the elders and heads of the peaks, gathered around a large table, entertain themselves with a light game of cards. Yun is distracted for a moment and asks his elder brother mentor how things are going on the battlefield. To which the man replies that nothing has changed and the chase is still going on. But after finishing his last sentence, the mentor notices that the opponents have stopped. Something has clearly changed. Indeed, Lin Bei and Han Zong stood calmly opposite each other, glaring at their opponent. "What? Are your legs tired? Are you finally ready to die?" the skeleton asks, unable to bear it any longer. Lin smiles and replies that he actually stopped running simply because there was no longer any need to. Han Zong initially thinks that he is being fooled again and becomes even more angry. The skeleton charges, but to his surprise, Lin stops the attack with just a touch of his palm. In fact, he was deliberately dodging in order to exhaust the enemy's spiritual energy reserves. Han Zong's fake golden core, without the constant supply of spiritual power, would simply crumble from within. The skeleton, in horror, touches with his palm the place where the golden core should be. "He has no more strength." Lin laughs at him. The guy takes a firmer hold of the skeleton's second hand, still extended towards him. One sharp movement and he easily tears the bone out of the joint. Han Zong screams furiously in pain and horror that has belatedly overtaken him. Lin throws the bone aside. He's dragged things out long enough. It's time to deal with this Han Zong once and for all. The villain extends his hand closer to the guy and smiles with anticipation. Han Zong freezes, already knowing how it will end. A powerful explosion is heard. The body of the finally dead guy takes on its original form, and his remaining luck goes to the winner. Lin completed the task given by the system and received the promised 80,000 points of villainy for it. It has received a beauties list, and now the system is being updated, promising new features to appear very soon. His mission is accomplished and the guy returns back to the real world. He honorably completed the task given to him and dealt with Han Zong. Bai Yun proudly praises his disciple. The mentor allows the student, as a reward, to visit the martial arts hall and choose any one secret technique. This is a great fortune because usually access to the martial arts hall is open only to students who have reached the level of the Golden Core. In order to eliminate the consequences caused by Han Zong's interference, the Qingyun sect held a new disciple recruitment ceremony. As a result, 20 people successfully passed all the tests and joined the sect. 2 days later in the Pavilion Library, Lin decided to take advantage of the generous reward and entered the martial arts hall. He thoughtfully examines the shelves of books, looking for something that suits him and discarding useless sections. There is too much here that can in no way be useful to him with his villainous system. The young man's attention is drawn to the section of formation techniques, on the sign of which the inscription, "No Idiots Allowed," is displayed. This postscript was clearly written by the hand of his beloved mentor. Only she could show such stupid pickiness. Suddenly, Lin's eye catches a sign with the promising title, Erotic Arts. Without thinking, he grabs the books from this section, and literally a second later the guy's nose starts bleeding. Paying no attention to this, he continues his study. Drops of blood quietly drip down from the tip of Lin's nose, staining the clean floors of the martial arts hall. The enthusiastic guy would never have thought that cultivators could have fun the way these books described. These tomes don't look very decent. If Lin took them outside, the teacher would definitely beat him to death with them. The guy decides to stay and see what else is interesting here. While studying the most interesting literature, evening comes imperceptibly and the sun sets behind the horizon. Tired and happy, Lin lies with his arms outstretched on a huge pile of various books from that unusual section. This pile contains either prohibited content or something that will never pass censorship. Lin decides that it was a completely useless day and that he wasted his time. And then the guy feels a sharp, unexpected pain in one of his fingers. He raises his hand to his face and notices a cut that has appeared out of nowhere. Lin looks around to find the object that injured him. He immediately finds a small bronze dagger of a rather creepy appearance. The thing in his hand suddenly begins to glow brightly. Lin doesn't understand what's happening and what he should do. Anyone watching from the street can now see a huge column of red flame shooting straight out of the roof of the martial arts hall. "So that's why you sent him to this hall?" Biyun's voice is heard. Fairy didn't expect that Lin would be chosen as the successor. Now both she and the mentor know that Lin is the bearer of the Blue Lotus legacy of their sect. Whether he will be able to obtain the Blue Lotus sword cannon and become the sole heir depends only on fate. After confirming that their plan has succeeded, the cultivators leave. At this time, Lin still doesn't understand what happened. The system tells him that he has received the item Edge of Heaven, which is one of the 9 keys to open the secret realm. and part of the grand legacy belonging to the Chosen One by fate. Although he doesn't understand everything yet, the guy guesses that he has received something incredible. But in order to open the secret kingdom of Qinlian, it is still necessary to collect all 9 keys, and then you will need to fight with the remaining 8 heirs from different sects to determine the only worthy one. Lin believes that such a selection is very difficult and tough, but the system hints to him that it is not at all necessary to defeat all the heirs. It is enough to simply take possession of all the available keys. Lin immediately remembers one very clever function of his villainous system. With its help, the guy materializes the sealed blue lotus sword cannon. Who would fight fair anyway? He laughs happily. On the Juzhou continent, all practices are divided into 2 types, ordinary and hereditary. Conventional practitioners follow the standard path of a cultivator, progressing through the stages in order. Obtaining the Edge of Heaven means becoming a hereditary practitioner. The Blue Lotus Sword Cannon requires that a hereditary practitioner accumulate 4 to 5 times more spiritual energy at the foundation stage. Then, as you move towards the Golden Core, using secret techniques, 2 cores are forged in Dantian, a spherical one and a sword-shaped one. After the successor reaches the stage of spirit generation, a powerful flying sword spirit will also appear, and only the one who obtains the complete canon of the Blue Lotus Sword will become the sole heir. Lin is extremely dissatisfied with the fact that he had to spend 130 points of villainy to obtain the Blue Lotus Sword Cannon. And now, the system tells him that he needs to spend another 900,000 points to remove the seal from him. And this makes him scream with anger. The guy decides that there is no point in killing himself over the points spent. But then, in a rage, he throws the tome that cost him so much money at the wall. The whole house shakes from the force of his rage. Having calmed down a little, Lin tries to think of something. Having failed to come up with anything worthwhile, he still asks the system if it has any ideas, to which she unexpectedly suggests 3 methods. This is a special bloodline, special techniques, and pills. Lin immediately notes 2 methods that are unsuitable for him for various reasons. All that remains are pills, which cost only 2,000 points. A little surprised, the guy clicks on exchange. Immediately, everything around comes into action and waves of power envelop the hero. Even though the system is a real bastard, it is still very powerful. Lin instantly became a 3rd-level alchemist. Now, extracting the essence of herbs and brewing premium pills is as easy as pie for him. That's exactly what he's going to do right now. And his first creation is the perfect pill returning the origin of Dantian. Lin decides to see how it works right away. It quickly absorbs the medicinal power and directs it to the Dantian. The effect is immediate. The villain realizes that he succeeded on the first try, which cannot but please. The elasticity of Dantian has increased and can now accommodate a little more spiritual energy, so he decides to increase the dose. Without further ado, he drinks it all at once. As you would expect from such high-quality pills, they work just fine. Lin ate 10 of them at once, and now his Dantian can hold 50% more spiritual energy. It's a pity that these pills can't be taken too often. Suddenly, the system window with the task appears in front of the guy again. Night falls, and a round, bright moon appears in the sky. Nalan slowly walks forward, remembering how her older brother had single-handedly resolved such a great crisis. Now the girl is interested in what he chose in the martial arts hall. Nalan stops abruptly when she sees Gu Yue right in front of her. She doesn't like that this strange girl is snooping around here so suspiciously, because most likely she is targeting her beloved older brother. Yu says that she is not interested in Lin at all, and this is complete nonsense. The girls start arguing loudly again. But very soon they suddenly fall silent, having caught some movement behind one of the nearest trees. In unison, they turn in that direction and strain their eyes to try to see what is hidden in the shadows. Nalan is outraged that this is the second suspicious snoop today. "Stop!" she shouts at the stranger in black who appears. Guye, however, doesn't intend to waste time on meaningless shouting and intends to catch the scoundrel. She takes out her whip and points it towards the stranger without hesitation. In a split second, it wraps around the shin of a rapidly running guy. Unable to stay on his feet, he falls to the ground with a loud thud. Both girls instantly find themselves next to him, forgetting their differences. "Tell me, why are you walking around here like that?" Nalan demands. The hand of a stranger lying limply on the ground catches her attention. The guy's fingers unclench and the girls see a small round ball in the middle of his palm. Within a split second, it begins to become covered with small cracks. The girls don't have time to react, and there is a very loud explosion. Both of them begin to cough from the smoke that corrodes their lungs and lose concentration. The masked stranger suddenly stands up and neither of them has time to defend themselves. A moment later, the girls are already lying unconscious on the wet, cold ground. having inhaled the soporific smoke. Lin, whose face is hidden behind a mask, picks up Gu Yue's whip. A few minutes later, both girls are already hanging from nearby trees. Their limbs are tied, and their mouths and eyes are covered with bandages. Lin finally pulls off the mask from his face, making it simply impossible to breathe. He completed the task he received from the system this afternoon. To his insane surprise, the villainous system promised him 5,000 villainous points if he could hang both girls from a tree for 6 hours. Don't blame me, blame this stupid system, Lin decides, having successfully completed the task. After some time, at the peak of spiritual resonance, Lin runs away from the enraged Nalan, who has guessed who exactly hung them from the tree that night. Never before had Lin seen his younger sister in such a mad rage. How did they even know it was me? He thinks in panic. Fire of spiritual resonance, Nalan shouts after him, releasing energy. Lin understands that things are bad. Another explosion is heard and the entire peak of spiritual resonance is covered in thick black smoke. Nalan and Yue are vigorously kicking their older brother, forgetting all their quarrels, but their fun is interrupted by Du Guyu. The dissatisfied girls are forced to stop the beating. In a month, there would be a meeting of the three sects, and for some reason the teacher decided to take Lin Bei with her this time. Also, Bi Yun would also like to see Gu Yue in this competition. Gu Yue and Lin leave, and Du Guyu and Nalan go swimming. Thanks to the wonderful water, all their daytime stress disappeared. Nalan asks her elder sister how long Lin and Yue will be away for this competition. Du Guyu teases her in response, hinting that Nalan will miss her beloved older brother terribly. Not at all. I'll forget even thinking about this scoundrel. Nalan immediately becomes indignant. Du Guyu thoughtfully says that sometimes she feels as if Lin's mischief is not his own doing. She suggests that her friend ask her brother if there is any reason why he behaves this way, but Nalan suddenly notices that their clothes are missing from where they left them. She tells this to Du Guyu, who is still bathing, and the girl opens her mouth in shock, immediately realizing who is to blame. It was Lin Bei who stole their clothes, and both girls screamed in rage throughout the forest, cursing him. At this point, the guy quickly leaves with their clothes because he doesn't want to fail the system's mission and run around the sect naked as punishment. He is ready to smash this damn system with its terrible tasks to pieces. A few days later, Lin Bei, comfortably seated on the edge of the roof, sings a famous romantic serenade at the top of his lungs. Without sparing his own throat, he sings loudly and this sound spreads throughout the entire area. Bai Yun tries her best to ignore the disgusting sounds that are disturbing her sleep. But in the end, the girl can't stand it anymore and opens her eyes, red from fatigue and lack of sleep. The unperturbed Lin Bei continues to perform a beautiful serenade, even while sitting on the roof of his mentor's chambers. This time the system has outdone itself with this task, but the guy can't fail it, otherwise he'll have to run around the entire Qingyun sect naked and skipping. Feeling movement behind his back, the guy turns to the mentor who appeared there as expected. The chrysanthemums have faded, you say? She repeats the line from the serenade in a frighteningly calm voice. And then there is an explosion. Nalan wakes up from such a bright light, thinking that it is already morning, but he immediately falls back asleep, unable to leave the warm, cozy bed. Bai Yun throws Lin, who has enraged her, far beyond the confines of her chambers. The guy gets a well-deserved 2,000 points for the completed task, but he is not at all happy about it. Ever since he got his hands on the beauties list, the system has gone crazy. As proof of this, the system window instantly gives the tense Lin another terrible task. Now he has to read romantic poems to a random girl on the street, and this task makes the guy scream loudly throughout the entire area. A whole month flies by unnoticed. Bai Yun checks to see if everyone who was supposed to come is there. After counting the students, the fairy realizes that Lin Bei is missing for some reason, but looking down, she recognizes a guy in a body wrapped in bandages, lying on the bare ground. Without thinking twice, she comes closer and touches the exhausted Lin with her foot. With a good swing, she sends the guy flying into the flying house with a powerful kick. Now everything is assembled and we can set off. In fact, Lin is happy that he finally got out of the sect. Because of this evil system and its tasks, lately all he does is beat him. Meanwhile, the system reminds him that there are less than 2 months left to conquer Gu Yue, but the guy doesn't have even a hint of an idea on how to win this girl over. Unexpectedly, Gu Yue comes to him herself. Her loud, indignant scream is heard throughout the entire flying house, and Lin does not understand why he is naked here, and she is the one screaming. "Pervert!" the girl shouts at him. Deciding not to argue with the highly illogical statement, Lin begins to pull on his clothes. Another system window appears, notifying you of the availability of a new feature. To unlock it, you need to spend another 1,000 points, which angers Lin to the extreme. But he has no choice and makes the purchase. Gu Yue, meanwhile, explains that she came here because her spiritual energy has become much purer lately, which is most likely due to the appearance of that very yin-yang seal. Therefore, she wanted to ask Lin if this seal had any other functions besides blocking the seed of gluttony. The system advises the puzzled Lin to tell the girl that in order to learn about the seal's functions, it is necessary to recreate that situation. For this, he will be awarded 100 points of villainy. Therefore, Lin decides to listen to the strange advice. Therefore, he literally repeats to the girl what the system wrote to him. Recreate that situation, Gu Yue asks, confused. And then she understands what this is about. Deboshi! She shouts indignantly at Lin Bei, blushing to the very tips of her ears and raising her hand to strike. Lin intercepts her palm, and at this time the system again prompts Lin what to say. How the hell does this system come up with lines like this? He mentally fumes. In the end, the guy decides that it's better to get a slap in the face than to run around the sect naked. So he decides to repeat the words of the system. Gu Yue looked at him warily, already expecting a trick. Lin slowly slides his hand just below her waist and quietly says that control over one's own body is the most important thing. You don't want anything to happen to your body again, do you? He asks softly, and the system gives him another 100 points. The guy is already mentally prepared to be beaten again. But Gu Yue surprises him by suddenly agreeing that there is logic in these words. Lin can't believe it actually worked. Following the system's prompts, he suggests blindfolding each other so that no one sees anything extra. The villain system gives him another 100 points, and the progress in conquering Gu Yue reaches 60%. Lin still can't believe that this is all really happening. The girl leans closer to him and slowly begins to take off her clothes.